So when you think of India's economy, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of people, it's a picture of extremes, right? You've got incredible wealth right next to profound poverty, tech billionaires and sprawling slums. This whole idea of a billionaire Raj has become the default story. But that story got a massive shot of adrenaline from a pretty shocking claim by one of the world's most famous economists.
And there it is. This isn't just some offhand comment. This is from the economist Thomas Piketty, and he flat out said that inequality in India today is worse, actually worse, than it was under British colonial rule. I mean, that is a bombshell of a statement, and it's really framed how the world talks about India's economy ever since.
But what happens when we step away from the headlines for a second and just look at the raw data? Go straight to the source, the World Bank, the folks who track this stuff for a living. Well, when you do that, the picture that emerges isn't just a little different. It's pretty much the exact opposite.
Okay, before we dive into the numbers, we got to quickly talk about the tool they use to measure all this. It's called the Gini Index, and it's really important to know this measures income inequality, so the money people are earning year to year. It's a simple scale from 0 to 100. 0 means perfect equality, like everyone earns the exact same amount. 100 means perfect inequality. One person gets all the money. So remember, the lower the number, the more equal the society.
So here's a little cheat sheet for how the World Bank actually classifies these scores. You've got everything from low to very high inequality, and you'll notice a lot of countries end up in that moderately high bucket. Keep that in mind, because the million-dollar question is, where on this scale do you think India lands?
All right, so what is India's official Gini Index score according to the World Bank? It is 25.5. Now take a look at where that number actually falls. It's not in the high category, it's not even in the moderately high one. It's sitting squarely in the moderately low inequality tier. In fact, it's just half a point away from being classified as a low inequality country. And a score of 25.5 isn't just a low number, by the way. On a global scale, it's kind of mind-blowing. This data actually ranks India as the fourth most equal society in the entire world. It's right up there with several Eastern European nations, and get this, it's ahead of pretty much every country we usually think of as being a model for equality.
And wait till you see how it stacks up against other countries. It gets even crazier. India's score of 25.5 is lower, meaning it's more equal than the famously egalitarian Nordic countries. It's way better than China and the United States, and it's less than half the score of South Africa, which is the world's most unequal large society. I mean, this data doesn't just challenge the popular story, it flips it completely upside down.
So this all begs one giant question, right? How on earth did the most populous country in the world, a place with such immense complexity and diversity, somehow manage to pull off one of the lowest levels of income inequality on the planet? Well, the answer is complicated, of course, but a huge piece of the puzzle is the deliberate construction of one of the most massive and ambitious social safety nets anywhere, and it's all built on a pretty unique digital foundation.
This here gives you a kind of a bird's eye view of the main pillars of that system. And we're talking about programs that operate at a scale that is just hard to wrap your head around, touching hundreds and hundreds of millions of lives. So let's break down the big ones. It all really starts with getting people into the financial system. The Jan Dhan Yojana program brought over 500 million people. That's 556.9 million into the formal banking system, a lot of them for the very first time. I mean, think about it. You can't really deliver welfare in the modern world if people don't have a bank account to receive it. This was the absolute foundation. Okay, so you've got the bank accounts. What's next? Digital identity. The Aadhaar system created a unique digital ID for basically every single resident, over 1.4 billion people. This created a digital backbone, a way for the government to know exactly who it was sending benefits to, which is absolutely crucial if you want to cut out corruption, middlemen, and all those ghost accounts.
And when you combine universal bank accounts with universal digital IDs, well, this is what you get: direct benefit transfers, or DBT. This system lets the government send welfare payments straight into the right person's account, no fuss. And the impact? An estimated $40 billion, with a B, in taxpayer money saved. That's money that used to just get lost in the system through leaks and corruption.
And then you have healthcare. In a country where just one medical emergency could plunge a family into poverty for generations, this is a game changer. The Ayushman Bharat scheme gives health coverage of about $5,800 per family per year. With over 410 million of these cards issued, it is one of the biggest public health insurance programs anywhere on Earth.
So this isn't just theory, right? Look at the results.
While income inequality was going down, the number of people living in extreme poverty just took a nosedive. We're talking 171 million people lifted out of that category in just over a decade. This is a huge part of how you get that low Gini score. You raise the floor for literally hundreds of millions of people.
Now, you might see this incredibly compelling data from the World Bank and think, okay, case closed. But not so fast. It does not mean the debate is over. Not by a long shot. The question of the best way to create a fair and prosperous society is still being fought over by economists.
So the debate really comes down to two different playbooks, and it gets back to that difference between wealth and income. On one side, you have economists like Piketty. They argue for redistributing existing wealth, assets, property, by taxing the super rich more. The idea is that this puts more money in the hands of the masses and boosts demand. But on the other side, you've got the Indian government's economists. They say the focus should be on creating new wealth through economic growth, which raises everybody's income. Their fear is that if you tax capital too much, it'll just flee the country, which hurts the very investment you need to grow in the first place.
And just to see how different paths can look, let's take a quick look at the United States. Here you see a totally different story playing out. For the last 40 years, the Gini index has been steadily climbing, which means income inequality has been getting worse. It's just a really clear example that the policy choices a country makes can lead to wildly different results over time.
This quote from Shamika Rabi, who's an economic advisor to India's prime minister, really sums up the government's entire philosophy. She's essentially saying that economic growth has been the engine behind everything good that's happened, from reducing poverty to improving lives, and to deliberately slow that engine down for the sake of redistribution would be, in her words, immoral.
So after going through the popular story, the surprising data, and the big debate that's still raging, what's the final takeaway here?
Okay, let's boil it all down. First, that popular image of a super unequal billionaire Raj gets a serious reality check from the World Bank's income data. Second, that same data actually ranks India as the world's fourth most equal society, which is wild. Third, a massive driver behind this is a huge, digitally powered social safety net. And finally, none of this has settled that fundamental economic debate. Is it better to focus on creating a bigger pie or on slicing the existing pie more evenly?
And that really leaves us with the core question of it all. It's the tightrope walk that every single country, rich or poor, has to figure out. How do you find that perfect balance between encouraging people to create wealth, which can lift everybody up, and making sure that the benefits of that wealth are shared broadly enough so that you have a society that's both fair and stable? Now that is the multi-trillion-dollar question.